In this video, we're going to look at how we can import, export, create rubrics in order to maximize your workflow into Google Classroom. So some people might find it useful, and let's begin. So, good day to you all. And this is a video for teachers who want to improve their workflow in Google Classroom. So let's begin. First of all, here you can see that I've got an example. I'm on Google Classroom. I've got many classrooms. This is a top classroom, a theory of knowledge for the International Baccalaureate. And you can see that in my assignment that I had created previously, this will not be covered in the video. You can use rubric, and here you can see that there is a little rubric that I can do. So first of all, I can see the rubric, and you can see that also um, I've got several things. So I've got points, I've got titles, and I've got descriptors for each of the things. And the idea of the rubric is that when you go into your assignment, then you will get the work of your students, and on the right hand side of the screen you will get also the rubric that you can just click on what you think is the best descriptor. So I like the top one because it's a very simple one. You just got one criteria with a description, one criterion with one description. However, it's not always like this, and of course something that you're going to find difficult is that when you open your Google Classroom, then you won't see any of this because it will be blank. So we're going to have a look at how we can use it. So for anything that you want to do in relation to this, you will need to go into a Google Classroom, and you can go on classwork or on stream, it doesn't matter, and you can open this. If you go into view assignment, you go into instructions, and here you can see that there is absolutely no rubric as per the one that I've just shown you before. So what needs to be done is simply to go into the edit mode, and you will see that here there's a button that says rubric add. By the way, if you don't know about this and you're writing essays, originally reports are basically a plagiarism tool. So if you want to check on that, it's quite useful. It gives you a good view of where the resources from the students are going, but that's the topic for another video. So in the rubric, you can add your rubric, and you can see that you can import, reuse, or create. Obviously, I'm new to this, and so therefore I have not created any rubric just yet. So if I create my rubric, and that's the bit that can throw you out a little bit and where I'm going to help you out. So I basically want to work my students' work with in relation to a speaking exam. So what we're doing here is that here I've got my mark scheme, and then we're going to have a brief look how we can adapt this, that my paper mark scheme on a Word document that I could adapt to go into Google Classroom. So basically, you can see that on this screen that I have here, there is criterion description, and then number of points. So essentially, those things there are going to be the things that are described. So don't worry about the points. If you don't have any scoring, or you don't think you need to do any scoring, you can just turn that off, and then you will have just the description. So in my sheet, I've got criteria A. I can basically call that criteria A, and I can put the title for this one, and for the second one, basically I'm putting level by level. So you've got the idea. You copy the title for each of the section, and then that's my title. Obviously I would copy the descriptions for every single one of them as well in there in the description section. So now I pretty much got my entire criterion A. I don't bother about the description bit at the top there, it doesn't matter. But then I've got all the criteria. If you look on my assignment, I've got criteria B1 and criteria to B2. So I will have to do exactly the same that what I've done, and don't do that. Add criteria, and then I would just copy this criteria. Then the first one is this one, so the title it would be that, and the description would be that. And we now have some kind of skeleton of our assignment. Okay, so at this point I can decide to save this, for example. And if you see, once I've saved this, then I've got the rubric. I can actually see the rubric now that we've transferred that, and we can see that I've got criteria A, criteria B, and then my descriptions will appear here, but I didn't go all the way through. And that's where how you can get your criteria entirely into Google Classroom. And all you've got to do when you go to student work, I'm going to show you in a couple minutes, is going to be able you're going to be able to grade basically the student. So here's one that is actually pre-prepared. Well, I actually pre-prepared myself, and I have saved. So so if I close my rubric here, you can see that I've got total 25 points. I've used the points bit here. I've got criteria A, criteria B1, B2, and C, and my descriptions and the number of points. How did I use the number of points when my sheet is actually using 1, 2, 3 instead of 1 point? You always use the lowest one. So I would tell the students that whenever I grade it, that would be the lowest possible grade they could get, and usually within that criteria. So usually that helps because sometimes software are not very good on managing points as such. So we have our criteria. It's already there. It's all full, and now we could just go down and assess student work. So I'm still in my assignment, and therefore we're going to save that. There we go. And now my criteria is fully marked. Okay, so it's fully ready to be marking students. So students have produced some work. They have provided me with that, and you could see that if I click on one of my students, then I can see the criteria. In fact, this is a speaking exam, sorry. So I'm just going to go to the document that's been provided. I'm going to click on the link. It's going to provide me with an audio file that I can play, and I can listen and then choose the criteria. But you can see that you can't see the little description. So if you need description, you can do this, and then you can decide whether what's the mark for criteria A, criteria B, criteria C, or B2, and so on. And it gives you a total, and then that will get written out of whatever number of points. So mine is out of 25, as we've said before, and so therefore I can update that in my assignment on Google Classroom. And now you're going to say, well, but this is very time consuming, given that I can't really, well, I have to do that for every single one of my classes. Well, this is where the thing is quite clever, because if I go back to my rubric here, I can open it and I can click on the three dots and I can export those to sheets. And if I export to sheets, it's going to say exporting to sheets, and at the end it's going to say exported to sheets. And if you decide to view that document, it will convert that document into a very unlegible document that actually is not very useful in itself. But you can actually, the powerful aspect of this is that you can share now this document with your colleagues. And as we have seen before, actually, into an assignment, it is actually possible to import a document. So for example, let's go back, and here I've already created one, so we're going to forget about that. If we go into my classwork, and for example, I'm going to take another assignment at random. Question about technologies. I go into here, edit as previously, then I can go rubric, and there I can say import from sheets. And then you will see that now I've got one that is called oral exam practice, which was this, or I've got my talk essay there. There you go. Rubric. And so if I click on this, or my talk essay for the matter, it will just import the Google Classroom into this. Obviously here there's a problem because I think I created this assignment before Google Classroom actually managed rubrics. So I think it's an old assignment. So don't worry too much about this, but then you can use those rubrics into different classes, different groups, and you can just invite other teachers. Actually, when you're, and final thing here today, when you are into your criteria, you can also, so when you export your sheets, it actually lives into your Google Classroom folder. And if you scroll down amongst the millions of Google Classrooms that I ever created in my life, you can see that there is one that is called Rubric Exports. And basically, this is where they go, the assignments that you export. So you can see I exported one this morning and one this morning for the talk as well. So I've got my oral exam practice, and I've also got my talk essay. Okay, so, and I've got the files that we had here that are not really eligible, but those ones you can import back into your classroom, and that can be very powerful because as a department, for example, or with your team, you could have one person that does the criteria, and you can just then go and share this document with the people that actually work with you, and they can import it into their classroom so the work's not duplicated. You can also, once it's imported in your classroom, you can edit it, you change it, and so on, and you can re-export it again. Also, as a head of department, for example, then you could decide to share all your rubric exports in a view-only folder, and people could make their own copies, and that could be quite powerful. It does take a little bit of time and to get your head around how to convert something that looks like this into something that looks like this. However, I think that can be a very time saver, particularly for people who are marking essays with a huge amount of criteria. We can see that we've got 4 there, and actually the workflow gets very quickly, and once you know it, you don't even actually, you need to read the descriptions again, which is something that I really like on Google Classroom. So that concludes our quick overview about Google rubrics in Google Classrooms and how you can import, export, share, and actually transform existing assignments. So hopefully that you found that useful, and if you've got any questions, write them in the comment below. If you enjoyed this video and you've sticked to now, then put a thumbs up and ask questions. Tell us what why you'd like to know more about this, or did I go too fast over anything that I could help with? Thank you very much, and have a very good day.